talking about a story that took place in Augusta, Maine, with a motorcycle, a Harley Davidson, that if you're ever in that town and you drive by the local synagogue, you may very well see that motorcycle there with special vanity license plate by the name JoJo. But in order for me to understand and explain, let me go back many years. There was a boy, and he was having a bar mitzvah in this small town in Maine. And he did a beautiful job, but he wasn't so sure if he was going to go back again to the synagogue after he finished his ceremony, after he finished his bar mitzvah. So the rabbi looked at him and said, "Yankel!" And Jojo smiled and said, "You know, Rabbi, you're the only person that calls me by that name." The rabbi said, "That's your Jewish name. Yankel, you know that we're a small town. We often need a minyan. We need to have 10 people to gather together. Now your bar mitzvah. Please consider. Come back, because I need you." And even though the rabbi pleaded that he should do so, his request fell on deaf ears. For Jojo went on his way, and he was never found in that synagogue ever again, or at least for a while. Because it was a small town, the rabbi knew a lot of people. So one day, many years later, he was in the supermarket, and he was just buying some things, and there was a man in front of him, and the rabbi kept squinting and looking and thinking, "I must know this guy. He looks so familiar." But he just couldn't place it, couldn't figure it out. And perhaps what threw him a little bit was the way he was dressed. He was wearing a leather jacket, and you could see when he was lifting up his arms a little bit, you could see some tattoos here and around here. And that's what he looked like. And that was basically the end of it. When the rabbi was about to get his groceries and to put him to the cashier, he noticed that this man in front of him left his hat and his biker sunglasses. So the rabbi, wanting to do the mitzvah of returning an object that he found lost, he ran into the parking lot, and he looked around, and he didn't see anything, but he heard a really, really loud noise. Someone was revving up. Boom, boom. The engine of that motorcycle. And he realized that was probably the guy that lost this. So he started walking closer, and he noticed on this man's license plate there was not a normal license plate, a vanity one. And it said JoJo. And at that moment the rabbi realized, that's him. This was the bar mitzvah boy so many years ago. So he started yelling, "Yankel! Yankel! Come back to me! I need you!" But it was too late. He had already driven off, and he couldn't hear him because Now I know who this is. I'm going to hold on to it. So he kept it in his office in the synagogue. And as often it happens, they were waiting for a 10th person to make the minyan. It was a very important day. There was someone that came especially to say Kaddish for a loved one, but there was only 8, and then the rabbi counted himself, he realized it was only 9. So often what happens in these small towns, you look out the window, and you hope maybe you'll find another Jewish person who happens to be walking by the synagogue. Just by luck, maybe we'll have a minyan. So the rabbi looked out the window, and he noticed in a store, in a pool hall, which had a whole line of motorcycles, he noticed that perhaps he could find his 10th person there, his 10th man. So he went across the street, grabbing this in hand, and he looked at all the motorcycles lined up. And sure enough, there was one with a vanity license plate. What do you think it said? That's right. He realized that this boy was there. So he walked in to the pool hall. It was filled with a lot of people. And he stood up, said, "Excuse me, I'm looking for someone." So they said, "Who are you looking for?" "Yankel! Yankel!" And all of a sudden, one person from the back, he looked up and he saw it was the rabbi. The rabbi looked at Yankel and said, "Yankel, come back. We need you." And Yankel said, "Rabbi, it's very difficult for me. I even recognize you in the supermarket, but to be honest, I was a little embarrassed. Because I know the way that I look, the way that I'm dressed, you probably would have been disappointed if I told you who I was." The rabbi said, "On the contrary. It's not important what you look like, Yankel, on the outside. I don't care what kind of transportation you use. I care about what's on the inside. And you and me are the same. You and I, we're both Jews. Come back. I need you." And they walked to the front of the synagogue. And as they were about to open the door to make the minyan, Yaakov stopped, he froze. He said, "Rabbi, I'm embarrassed to come." I said, "Why?" "I don't even have a kippah. I'm going to walk in there. The people are going to look at me, and maybe they'll think I'm different." And the rabbi did something unbelievable. He took his kippah off of his head, and he put it on Yaakov's. And then, immediately afterwards, the rabbi put on the biker shades and the hat, and he put his arm around Yaakov and said, "We're coming in together." And they did. And I'll tell you that to this day, if you ever happen to be in that neighborhood in Augusta, Maine, now you'll know a little bit more of the history. When you see that motorcycle parked in front of that synagogue with the license plates, to me it's an important message, which actually teaches us 2 important things. First of all, just like we see in our parsha, Yitzchak had 2 children, twins, Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov was a great boy. studied Torah. He did everything right. Esau made some mistakes, plenty of them. But Yitzchak, his father, never gave up on his son. Yitzchak, just like that rabbi named, always said, come back. I need you. And this is an important message, especially as we think of a person who may look different, a person who may not necessarily do the same things that we do. But I'll tell you what, just like that Rabbi Yankel, they're all Jews. They're all one. This is something which I learned this week personally. Many of you know there was a rally in which I took part in Washington, D.C. 300,000 people came together. And I looked around, and guess what? There were many people that were like Yankel. There were people that did not look like me. There were people that were dressed like me. We had certain things on the outside that made us look different. But we came together as one. Because all those people shared a common mission, a common goal. And therefore, no matter how different we may look, we're all Jews. We're all the same. We're celebrating also during this time a special holiday called Sig. Some of you may be familiar with, especially the 4th grade, in which people from not Israel, but Ethiopia, a totally different country, and we acknowledge them. Because no matter what we look like, it does not make any difference. We are all the same. We're all Jews. So with this, I conclude with the following 2 messages. Let's learn from the Rabbi and Yankel never to give up. Don't give up on each other, and don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your dreams. You can be anything you wish, and you can always come back. And second, let's remember, just like in Washington and in Sig, that we also need to come together with Achut, to be unified as one. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
We celebrate today the holiday that we celebrated in Israel on Monday, which Dr. Tomsky spoke about, Sig, which is the holiday of the Ethiopian community. The Jews of Ethiopia were lost, and they thought that we are lost. They did not think there were any other Jews left in the world. And we didn't know that they were there. They were lost such a long time ago that they only celebrate Chagim that are in the Torah. So what 2 holidays that I know you guys love do you think they don't celebrate? They do now because they're in Israel. But when they were in Ethiopia, they didn't because they didn't know about it. Bell, what do you think? Hanukkah is one of them. They didn't. What's the other one? Eating. Yeah, Pesach, then Pesach is the Torah. No. What else? Any other thought? Something that is after Anel? Purim, Nahon. They didn't know. They didn't know about Hanukkah and they didn't know about Purim. And when they got to Israel, they looked around. Everything was different. The music was different. The people looked different. When it came time in the morning to do tefillah, everybody, those who looked like them and who didn't look like them, those who sounded like them who didn't sound like them, they all did this. And of going back to Yerushalayim. And they sang a song. Your part in the song, and Kita Dalet is going to point to them when it's time to say, Shalom Lach Ir. Can we say that? Shalom Lach Ir. Okay? Shalom Lach Ir. And in their language, which is Amharic, they said, Selam, Selam Leki. Selam, Selam Leki. So Kita Dalet will point to them when it's time for those words. Okay, please take your instruments. And we tried, Kita Dalet and I, to use instruments that are typical for the community of Beta Israel, which are the Jews of Ethiopia. And they have some string instruments. It's not a violin, it's not a guitar, it's not a oud. It's something that is much, much, much smaller, less strings. So we don't have that, but we added some of the strings on the keyboard. That's the closest that we can come. And then we're all going to join in a very special song.